I just want to talk today about how you can find the root causes of your digestive issues, how I help my clients find the root causes of their digestive issues. And I have been talking with a lot of people recently in the DMs, clients that I'm working with, started working with, who have had extensive or minor testing done already, and they were told everything was normal, there was nothing there. So these are people who are doing testing with their gastroenterologists, naturopaths, functional health practitioners, and they do the gut testing, they do the breath testing, and they say, oh, I was negative, I didn't have anything, they didn't find anything. I did scopes and everything looks normal, everything looks healthy, and I don't know why I'm having digestive issues. They said everything looks good. And this is very, very common. Um, I actually rarely have people come to me who have found something in their conventional testing and then, came to me. Either they found something and they resolved it, or are coming to me because they'd worked with other practitioners who had not been able to find anything or help them resolve it. And, or, worse, they did go through some kind of medication or treatment and they still have problems. And so I wanted to talk with you guys more about the testing that is usually done and why this is problematic, why I do a different kind of testing. And I also did a lot of testing. I was diagnosed with IBS at 16. Nothing was wrong. It was just IBS. Take a medication. Were the answers that I got. There was no specific thing that was causing the problem. And I also did testing with, and I've done testing with naturopaths before. And a lot of naturopaths like to do culture testing where they take the sample and then they grow it in a lab and they see what grows and then they know what's out of balance. I've done that kind of testing and also came back with nothing's wrong. Everything looks good. Everything looks normal. And to be fair, sometimes I look at the same testing and I can see places where, okay, maybe this is within range, but it's getting a little higher, or based on your symptoms, this could be causing the problem, even though it wasn't technically high. So part of it is the testing that's done, and part of it is also the interpretation of the testing. And the way that I look at it is if you're having digestive issues, then something's wrong, then something's not normal, something's not optimal. So we have to find whatever that is. And a lot of the testing that comes back negative, like I said, is culture testing. And that's unfortunately, a lot of things don't grow very well in these cultures. There are a lot of anaerobic bacteria that can cause problems, and they're not going to grow in those dishes, in those cultures. And some things like candida can overgrow. Other molds and fungi that may be inhabiting the digestive tract won't grow. And I just don't find those studies. It's not that lab environment is not the same as the gastrointestinal tract, and those things tend to be inaccurate, and they tend to come back with everything's fine. And if you're having digestive issues, that everything's not fine. And there are other tests too, like H. pylori breath tests. And I've seen many times clients come to me, they say, I tested negative for H. pylori. We do the testing that I like to do, and they are positive for H. pylori. And there are a number of reasons why this can happen. One can be that the breath tests are often not sensitive enough, or these tests are looking for a higher threshold. The opinion is that only a certain amount of H. pylori is going to cause problems, and if it's under that amount, it's not causing problems. And over 50% of US and Canadian populations, and perhaps more for other nationalities, have H. pylori. So it's true that there are a lot of people that have H. pylori and it's not causing problems or not severe problems. Um, but for people who are having a lot of stomach issues, stomach acid issues, nausea, pain in the upper left rib, we really have to look at not is H. pylori high, but is there anything there at all? Because the other thing about some of these categories of pathogens or bacteria or parasites is they can fluctuate. H. pylori can be higher 1 month or week or day and lower other times. And so it could be that when you get the test, it's okay, but maybe the next week you're under a lot of stress or your diet's changed, something else is going on, and then it's higher that week. And so you get more symptoms, and that didn't happen to be when you test. So I do find very often now, people come to me, they have testing, it says everything is fine, and either I can read between the lines of that testing and see, well, I think this could be contributing to your issue, even though technically it's within normal range. Or it's just simply, not coming up with that pathogen or that issue at all, in which case we really do have to look at your symptoms, look at what you're experiencing and then do the right testing for you. And that I would say testing is the main way that I find root causes for people's digestive issues. Um, the right testing and then the right interpretation. And someone who's seen a lot of gut testing and has sort of learned about patterns. And there's also a lot of research about patterns too that can be used in reading between the lines in this testing and figuring out what could be the root causes. Now, overall, if I'm talking about root causes, I would really say these would be things like food poisoning that sets off a disruption in immunity and autoimmunity. That's a big root cause. Um, and then also years of stress, toxins, poor diet, modern life can be a root cause. But in an acute way, I'm really when I say root causes, what I mean more is a specific pathogen, um, or a specific incident that caused an autoimmune problem, or in terms of root causes, specific dietary things that we have to shift temporarily because they cause something. Once we fix it, then we can go back to a wider way of eating. So when I'm saying root causes, I really mean here pathogens or weaknesses in the way that we digest and the way our immune system is interpreting all the things that are coming in. So I would like to show you the test that I like to use and a little bit about it and why I like it, why it's so powerful. Sorry, I'm running out of batteries. Right, so let me just go ahead and bring up for you a copy, like a sample of this testing that I like to use. And this is something that there are practitioners who use it. You can ask your, you know, GI doctor or naturopath or someone to run this. But again, it does take some experience looking at these. It's not always super obvious what the root causes are and what needs to be done. So the first page in this test, so this is the GI map from Diagnostic Solutions. I like this test because it's literally counting the number of DNA of certain bacteria, parasites, fungi, viruses, and it also looks at very concrete evidence for weaknesses in the digestive tract, how well you're digesting fat, how many how many enzymes you're producing from pancreas, how many immune molecules there are, how your immunity is reacting, and some other factors that I'll show you that are very helpful in getting some short-term relief and also seeing if things like stomach acid weakness, bile weakness, overactive immunity or underactive immunity, how you're reacting to gluten, how these things are affecting digestion and contributing to the problem. So this is the main test I use to find root causes. Oh, And we see if I can just zoom in a little bit for you. The first page would be something your doctor would consider to be a pathogen like Giardia, C. diff, certain like a stomach virus, E. coli, salmonella. And recently I have had two clients recently, one that had some salmonella, one that had E. coli, and they were strongly affected by these and they were giving them symptoms. But they were here, yellow, not high. So there's a very, very real possibility that if you have something like this going on, but it's not high, the test that you might get at your specialist wouldn't find it at all because they have thresholds. But this has a threshold of very low. They count every single one, and either it's not there or it's there, and then it's high. Many tests that you would get at your doctor or naturopath are only going to flag things that are high. And as you can see, this person has this issue that's probably affecting them or would affect them after they get rid of C. diff, but no one's going to flag it or be concerned with it. And someone like me, a lot of practitioners, we really want to resolve all the things for long-term really resilience. We want to have resilience in our digestive tract. We don't just want to get rid of one pathogen and then we're susceptible to the next food poisoning, the next vacation that throws everything off. We really want to get a very balanced digestive tract so that we as a host are inhospitable to a little something here or there. The next page, here's something really important. A lot of tests that you will get will only flag H. pylori if it's high or only flag it if there's a virulence factor. But I often see people, and this was me as well, our H. pylori was not high, but it was still causing a lot of symptoms. It was causing bloating, inability to digest protein. It was causing acid reflux. And so I love this test because it shows if there's any H. pylori at all. It doesn't just flag it if it's high or has virulence factors because things like H. pylori can really fluctuate quite a bit. The test also looks at your normal gut bacteria, what's high, what's low. And this can be very informative in terms of how problematic bacteria that we'll see on the next page, might be affecting your gut. And are they really a problem that we need to get rid of or not? Also, we can look at these overall categories in the gut, Bacteroidetes, Firmicutes. There are really interesting studies that have been done about hidden parasites and the level of Bacteroidetes. And I use that to look for hidden things. Here we have all kinds of bacteria that can cause problems. And we can read between the lines here too to see, okay, do we have a persistent, I had this with a client, persistent Pseudomonas aeruginosa, could not get rid of it. It was coming from the coffee machines at work. This is notorious for living in coffee and tea machines, like hot water machines. So the person just kept getting re-exposed and re-exposed. Staph, strep, Fusobacterium prevotella, these come from the mouth and sinuses. So even if they're high, first of all, because they are normal inhabitants of the gut, a lot of specialists wouldn't address them, but they can really throw off that good bacteria we saw on the previous page. So if you have high staph and strep, some of these bacteria are going to be low because they can't compete. And when we see those things, we also know some other information. Is H. pylori causing a problem and lowering stomach acid? So when you swallow your saliva, you're having all of these gut bacteria that should have been killed by your stomach acid. Now they're surviving because H. pylori has affected stomach acid. So I'm looking for that. I'm also thinking about, do we need to rebalance the oral and sinus microbiomes? Are those bacteria way too high and affecting the gut? And so these are a lot of things that we can see on this test. They're not coming up in other tests because those other tests are just saying this is normal. Here we can see the levels. We can see if something's getting higher, and then we can address it if need be. Also, a lot of people have not had SIBO testing, but two of the pathogens, bacteria methanogens that SIBO tests for are here. Vibrio, which can cause problems in the small intestine or the large intestine that causes very stinky gas, issues with cruciferous vegetables, things like that. Methanogens, this is one of the main bacteria that contribute to methane SIBO, constipation-related SIBO. So we have these bacteria here, and we can look at the level. See, this one's 1.24 to the E8. So if this person had constipation, and there was a suspicion of SIBO. They'd had food poisoning. They were having a lot of bloating. And we see that this is getting higher. We can say, well, maybe this is contributing without having to do a separate SIBO test. And sometimes, too, this will come up as a negative in the SIBO test, but it's going on in the large intestine. And so it does need to be addressed in the large intestine. This test also has fungi and yeast, including candida and viruses. And, this candida testing, this and one other test called the organic acids are really good ways to find candida. And sometimes when these come up too, we know that there may be other kind of fungi going on. But this test is much more accurate for candida than a lot of culture tests that your naturopath or doctor might run. And then this test has literally counts the number of parasites and protozoa. And what I would say too on this, there were some really interesting studies. I really don't think I've ever had a client or someone I spoke with who had gone to their GI specialist and had parasites. Maybe one or two people who'd lived abroad and came back and was diagnosed with parasites. But for the most part, these parasites are not being found in your standard testing. And there's a wonderful parasitologist in Colorado. He does parasite testing where he has an eye. He worked in Africa for many years in a lab. He knows how to see them. He knows how to find them, much more accurate than any testing. And I've never sent a sample to him that didn't have parasites or protozoa on it. There's always something there. And there was a really interesting study done. This is on PubMed if you want to look for it. It's an NIH reviewed study where they were looking at people with severe gastrointestinal issues, so severe that they were admitted to the ER, and they did parasite testing on them. The first pass, 58% of them had parasites. The next day, they did an additional parasitic study, an additional 21% had parasites. The third day, they did another stool test. The third day, an additional 21%. So by the end of 3 days of parasite testing, every one of those patients did have parasites present, but it took 3 separate tests to get those results. So I like this test for improving the accuracy of parasite testing. And I also give instructions in such a way that we can expose more of these parasites and find them more easily, because the standard way that this test is run, it's just 1 day and there's nothing to break up the biofilm where parasites like to hide. So I like to add those things, and we can get more results, more accurate results to find these root causes. So that's another thing. It's not just doing the right testing, looking at it through the right lens with experience and knowing patterns and knowing what the studies have shown, but also doing the test in an enhanced way, which can be very helpful for finding additional things. And then this test also has additional health markers that are looking at sort of root causes, which I'll talk about in a second, especially root causes for SIBO. But also this can be very helpful in how bad is this problem? What other hidden things could be going on? And also, how can we give some symptom relief? And what kind of wider body problems is this causing? So we have in this test steatocrit, which is fat in the stool. That can be very helpful in understanding if someone has digestive issues digesting fat. So we can see how good your bile flow is, how good your detox is flowing, how good you are at digesting fat. Is this something that's causing problems? And also, this can be a big contributor to SIBO if you don't have good stomach acid, good bile flow, good pancreatic enzymes. Those juices create an inhospitable environment for bacteria and fungi in the small intestine. And if we see that there are problems there, we can see how it might be contributing to SIBO. And one of, this poor bile flow can be one of the reasons why people have SIBO, and maybe they did treatment and it keeps coming back. They need that good digestive fire. We can see in this test how the digestive fire is. Elastase 1 is pancreatic enzyme. So we can see how well the pancreas is releasing enzymes. And a lot of times if steatocrit is higher and elastase 1 is lower, I know that maybe stomach acid needs some assistance, because the stomach acid tells the gallbladder and the pancreas how much food is coming down, how many digestive juices to create. If stomach acid is poor, it can create a domino effect that can contribute to SIBO, contribute to bloating, contribute to not digesting your food properly and not getting good nutrition. So this is very helpful information that's both root causes and also what we can do about it to fix it. Beta glucuronidase is very helpful when people are having hormonal imbalances. So we can give some symptom relief in those hormonal imbalances. If we see this is high, we can see if there's blood in the stool. Is what's going on causing bleeding, causing inflammation? Also, these other markers down here, eosinophil activation protein and calprotectin, tell us how much inflammation is going on, how urgent this is. Should we refer you to a GI specialist if you haven't gone there? Are you at risk for Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis? Should you be working with someone on that? And also, is there inflammation? Is that part of the problem? A lot of times we see these high when people have a ton of food sensitivities. They can't handle supplements, foods. We can see it's coming from inflammation, or if it's coming from inflammation, then we know what to do about it. We also have information on this test about the immune system. So a lot of times I see people with severe GI issues, either their immune system is way overzealous, reacting to everything, or it's suppressed. It's been going through this for a very long time and it's not putting up much of a fight anymore. We can also see if the immune system's reacting to certain proteins and gluten. So we know, are you really avoiding gluten? Is the amount of gluten that you're exposed to okay for you? Do you think you're gluten-free, but there must be a hidden source because you have a lot of anti-gliadin antibodies? That's very, very helpful in guiding people's diets, and also seeing how reactive people are, if avoiding gluten is super important for them or not so much. And then the last one that I really love on this test is zonulin. Zonulin is something that controls how permeable the gut wall is. And so when we see high zonulin, we know that the person has leaky gut, if you've heard about that. And we can address that. We know we have to heal that. We know that that's part of the problem. Or we can see, okay, is this why you have skin issues, rashes, eczema, rosacea, psoriasis? When we have high zonulin, there are things we need to do to prevent that body-wide toxicity from leaky gut. So this test, again, with running it the right way and looking at it the right way, is so much more informative than a lot of testing that you're going to get, and is really going to give us a lot of the causes of the digestive issues. Is diarrhea being caused by parasites? Is diarrhea being caused by Citrobacter? Is diarrhea being caused by E. coli? Because we would do different things for this. Also, Are you having bloating because you're not digesting protein well and it's low stomach acid? Or are you having bloating because your methanogens are too high? And with this information, we see what's causing the issue, and then we can go through a very systematic way of resolving these causes and supporting the system and also getting quick symptom relief. And that's kind of the info that we're looking for in terms of using this test to find root causes. And, a couple of things that I want to add to this in terms of root causes, I do also consider a few other things to be root causes. And this is why sitting down with someone and really doing a thorough history, asking questions, finding out about their symptoms, details about their symptoms, their history, their lifestyle, not just like a fill out a sheet and your naturopath or your doctor glances at it, but really understanding and asking questions about how this started, how long this has been going on, what your diet's like, what your lifestyle's like, um, how you experience the symptoms, what time of day you're experiencing the symptoms. That can reveal a lot of information for us to get to root causes. Like I said, a lot of food poisoning is a really big root cause for things like bloating, slower, quick digestion, um, stomach cramping, and H. pylori and can be either contributing to a lot of digestive issues or not. And so having that long conversation is another way to kind of determine some of these root causes. And I would also add in there are sometimes other factors that I would consider to be a root cause. Things like mold exposure, um, and things like Lyme disease, or exposure to bacteria associated with Lyme. Sometimes viruses, like if you had mono as a teenager, some of these things, some of these pathogens are so problematic and inflammatory to the immune system and they throw the body so much out of balance that you could take the antibiotics, the antiparasitics, the herbs, and if you don't know that this other thing is going on, sometimes the issues will come back, or you are too sensitive to even take these things, or you'll get better and then worse again, or sometimes they just don't work at all. And I kind of came into this wider spectrum of root causes besides just gut pathogens perspective from my own experience, where I was able to resolve a lot of the bacterial and fungal issues that I had, but H. pylori kept coming back. I'd get rid of it for a couple years and then it'd be gone. And then a couple years later, it'd be back and causing issues again. And I came to realize when I did some other testing that I had mold toxicity, very severe mold toxicity. And it was so inflammatory to my immune system because I have a genetic variation that about 24% of the population has, where 24% of us can't make antibodies to certain toxins. So our body's kept in constant inflammation. Instead of making the antibodies and getting rid of it, the body is just like constantly at war. And this state of inflammation for something very serious distracts the body from dealing with things that can be more benign, like H. pylori. So I do like to use screening, a detailed intake and history, and sometimes additional testing or looking at testing that you already have to determine, is there some other toxin or pathogen that is keeping your body constantly out of balance and unable to deal with these digestive pathogens and get your digestive immune system back in balance. And so I'm going to open it up in a minute for Q&A. Let me know if you have any questions about this, and I'd also be happy to discuss further. I'll put in the chat a link. I have a 15-minute chat availability, and we could just talk a little bit about what's going on with you and what could be causing your symptoms. I'd be happy to talk to you more about your particular case and what could be causing the symptoms and how you would go about finding that. And so, before I open it for Q&A, I just want to let you know I am running a special right now to do this GI map to help you find the root causes. And so this is just, this special is just the GI map with your intake and a conversation with you so we can get that history to determine what is causing your digestive issues. It's just one consult where we go over the test findings and your history, and I can give you information. Here's what's going on in your digestive tract. Here's what's probably causing your symptoms. Unfortunately, that one conversation is not sufficient to create a protocol or something where you can deal with it. But this is your ability to get this testing done, and I can interpret the testing for you, knowing your personal history, and then you can do what you like with it. You can take it to your doctor, you can take it to your naturopath, you can use Chat GPT or your own information. Maybe there's just a missing link you're looking for that you need to know. You can figure it out on your own and try some different supplements on your own, or you could join my program, the IBS solution. And now we already have a head start, and we've already done a bunch of the work to get there. So you would be able to join the program at a discounted rate. But I just want to offer, because I know a lot of people, they just want to know what's going on. So sometimes they don't want to join my full program, but they really need to know what's going on. So that's why I'm offering this, because I do want you guys to know what's going on. I do want you to understand more why you're experiencing what you are. And so we can use this test and use this consultation to help you figure that out. And then you can do with it what you like, what you like. You can continue to work with me and we can fix your digestive issues for good, or you can take the information and do what you like. But I do want to offer that because I think some of you, you just need to know some answers, and you have been searching for years and haven't been getting them. So I will also post that link for you guys. And if you have any further questions about that in the Q&A, I'd be happy to answer them. So I'm going to stop the recording, and so that the Q&A can be more private and everyone else can get the